You have the idea. It has been sitting in your head for weeks, maybe months. You know exactly what you want to create. You can see it clearly. But every time you sit down to start, something happens. You open the document and close it. You tell yourself you need to think about it a little more first. You do some research, you rearrange your desk, you make coffee, and then the day is over, and the thing is still not started. The worst part is that you can see yourself doing it. You can hear the voice that says it needs to be right before you begin, and you still cannot move. There is a word people use for this. They call it procrastination, but that word has never felt quite right. Because you are not lazy, you care enormously. That is the whole problem. For years, people have told you that you have high standards, that you are a perfectionist, like it is something to be proud of. Or they have flipped it and told you to just start. Done is better than perfect. Just ship it, just begin. As if the problem were a simple lack of permission. You have tried just starting. You have told yourself that imperfect action beats perfect inaction. You have read the productivity advice, and still the blank page stays blank. Because what nobody has told you is the real reason you cannot begin. It is not that your standards are too high. It is not that you lack discipline. It is not even that you are a perfectionist in the traditional sense. The real problem runs much deeper than any of those labels. And it has nothing to do with how hard you are willing to work. Here is what is actually happening. You are not stuck because you want things to be perfect. You are stuck because for many of us, the brain quietly makes a dangerous equation. The quality of what you produce equals your worth as a person. If what you make is great, you are great. If what you make is mediocre, you are mediocre. If it fails, you fail, not the work, you. When that equation is running in the background, starting anything becomes an act of courage, because starting means the possibility of failing. And failing does not just mean the work is bad. It means you are bad. Think of it this way. Imagine a bouncer standing at the door of your own mind. Their job is to decide what gets out into the world. And their rule is simple. Nothing leaves unless it is perfect. So nothing leaves. The bouncer is not protecting your reputation. The bouncer is holding you hostage. And today we are going to look at the science behind why that bouncer exists, what they are actually afraid of, and exactly how to get them to stand down. To understand what is really happening, we need to start with a concept that researchers Jennifer Crocker and Laura Park have spent decades studying. They call it contingent self-worth. It is the pattern of tying your sense of value as a person to your performance in a specific area. For some people, self-worth is contingent on how others see them. For others, it is tied to career achievement, grades, or creative output. When your self-worth is contingent on your work, every task carries a weight it was never designed to carry. It is no longer just a project, it is a verdict. A verdict on whether you are capable enough, talented enough, worthy enough to exist in the space you are trying to occupy. Crocker and Park's research found something striking. Research suggests that tying self-worth heavily to achievement can increase anxiety, self-protection, and avoidance when failure feels threatening. Because when the stakes of a single attempt become that high, the safest strategy is not to attempt it at all. You cannot fail if you never try. And so the blank page stays blank. Not because you do not care, but because you care so much that starting feels like standing in front of a judge. For some people, this paralysis goes beyond standard perfectionism and can overlap with ADHD, executive dysfunction, anxiety disorders, or OCD. If that resonates, this is not a willpower problem. It is a neurobiological response that deserves proper support. There is a second layer to this. Psychologist Carol Dweck spent decades studying how people relate to their own abilities. She identified two fundamentally different belief systems. The growth mindset holds that abilities develop through effort and practice. Failure is information. It tells you what to work on next. But the fixed mindset holds that talent is fixed. You either have it or you do not. And if you try and fail, it does not mean you need more practice. It means you do not have what it takes. For someone operating from a fixed mindset, not starting becomes a rational strategy. If you do not begin, no one can see whether you have the ability or not. The potential stays intact. The possibility that you could be great remains alive, untested, protected. But the moment you start, you risk finding out the truth. And for a brain running on contingent self-worth and a fixed mindset, that risk can feel unbearable. This is why insight alone is rarely enough. You can know intellectually that done is better than perfect. But if your nervous system believes that what you produce is a verdict on who you are, advice alone often isn't enough to change the equation. This leads to what researchers and clinicians sometimes describe as task paralysis, an emotional freeze response. It is the state of being fully capable and completely frozen at the same time. Here is how the loop runs. You have an idea, you want to start. The brain flags the risk. If this is not good enough, it says, people will see that you are not good enough. So it asks for more preparation, more planning, more certainty that when you finally do begin, the output will protect you. But more preparation never provides enough certainty, because the brain is not looking for certainty about the work. It is looking for a guarantee that you will not be exposed, and that guarantee does not exist, so the preparation continues indefinitely. The start never comes. And the longer you wait, the more pressure builds. The more pressure builds, the more important the thing becomes. The more important it becomes, the higher the stakes. The higher the stakes, the more the brain insists on more preparation before beginning. You're not stuck because you lack discipline. You are stuck because your nervous system is trying to protect you from a verdict it is terrified of receiving. Now we move into the toolkit. The first tool is called the good enough threshold. Before you start any task, you define what done actually looks like. Not perfect, good enough. One sentence written down before you begin. This is good enough when it does X, where X is the minimum viable version of what you are trying to create. A first draft is good enough when it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. A proposal is good enough when it communicates the core idea clearly enough to have a conversation. You are not lowering your standards, you are giving your brain a finish line it can actually see. Without a defined threshold, the brain keeps moving the goalposts. With one, the bouncer has a rule they can actually work with. Decide what done looks like before you begin, then hold that line. The second tool is called the ugly draft. Instead of trying to begin well, you deliberately begin badly. You give yourself explicit permission to produce the worst possible version first. The ugliest draft, the roughest sketch, the most embarrassing first attempt. Here's why this works. When you intentionally lower the bar at the start, you remove the verdict from the first attempt. A bad, ugly draft is not evidence of inadequacy. It is the plan. It was supposed to be bad. And once something imperfect exists on the page, your brain's threat response decreases. The bouncer relaxes. Because the feared exposure has already happened, and you survived it. From there, improving is always easier than creating from nothing. The ugly draft is not your final work. It is permission to begin. The third tool is called the fear exposure ladder. This one operates over time rather than in a single session. You deliberately create and share small imperfect things, regularly. A rough observation shared publicly, a half-formed idea voiced in a meeting, a first attempt shown before it is ready. The goal is not the output. The goal is evidence. Over repeated experiences of sharing imperfect work, the nervous system can begin updating its threat assessment. The danger decreases slightly. The bouncer's rules begin to loosen. Over weeks and months, the dangerous equation between your worth and your output starts to weaken. You accumulate proof that you can put something unfinished into the world and still be fine. That is not a trick. That is one way a growth mindset can gradually develop, by pairing intellectual insight with repeated lived experience. So let us put this together. You are not a procrastinator. You are not undisciplined. You are not someone who lacks the drive to do hard things. You are someone whose brain built a bouncer a long time ago to protect you from a verdict that felt dangerous. That bouncer was trying to keep you safe, but comfortable safety and meaningful growth rarely live in the same place. The version of you that waits for perfect will wait forever, because perfect is not a standard. It is a moving target the bouncer invented to keep the door closed. Define what good enough looks like. Write the ugly draft. Share the imperfect thing. And the next time the bouncer shows up, remember what they are actually protecting. Not your reputation, not your talent, your excuses. You were never waiting for the right moment. You were waiting for a guarantee that does not exist. Start anyway. Now, if you notice something while watching this, a voice that not only stops you from starting, but also replays every moment after it happens, running the simulation over and over, that is a different but connected pattern. Click the next video to understand why you replay conversations in your head for days after they happen, and what your brain is actually trying to do when it will not let you let go. I will see you over there.